spawning in the north, as the Rus, NyanRacingCat in the north, and also as the Rus spawning in the south, it is ISanych. Now, you might be keen to know the map we are playing is on Golden Heights, so we have that little bit of area of water, just about 15% of that water, and these little bit of deep water fish are so important because of how important water is in this game, and the fact that you are playing the Rus with those Ladya fishing boats, making sure that you get some decent food economy as you go into Feudal Age and Castle Age. Both of these players really trying to make sure they're able to do that. NyanRacingCat, first one with the dock in the south. That villager also saying to get that sheep out of here and turn that into a carcass. Now with the Rus, it's been rather difficult to see these players play on Golden Heights because, again, as the Rus, you're worried about bounty, you're worried about some of these deer piles, but at the same time, as you see, this one pretty much unscathed, this one's killed, this one not, this one not. There's still 3 deer piles at the 2.5 minute mark, which is absolutely unfounded in a Rus mirror, but it's just because this water is just so dang important. And the first Ladya from NyanRacingCat has been shown. ISanych does pull multiple villagers, as NyanRacingCat did that previously, to make sure he got the dock up. And what I can expect to see from both of these players as we get up to Feudal Age, we'll probably see some Kremlin action, which we will show the changes to the Kremlin on this one. But ISanych actually pulling a 3rd villager over here and gonna get that dock up. Will take a little bit longer as 2 boats from RacingCat are completed beforehand, and it looks like he spent a lot of wood and some of his macro back home to make sure he was able to do that successfully, whereas ISanych did, you know, the lumber camp, then, you know, made sure he had the house for the population space, which NyanRacingCat did also, but waited on the lumber camp and did a lot of stragglers instead. These stragglers closer to the town center, making sure the walking time isn't that bad, and was able to produce these boats quicker than ISanych can. So that could translate to maybe a Feudal Age that's quicker for RacingCat, just because of the fact that he's able to get a couple of these boats quicker. Now that the water has essentially been established for both players, we're still looking for these deer packs. Looks like there's another one here that has not been made. And just like I suspected, ISanych going for the Kremlin, and we will be seeing gremlins here, ladies and gentlemen. Kremlin acting as a wooden fortress. Now remember, some of these are new changes, some of them are old, but it does act as a wooden fortress, and he will be changing his wood line as this one is essentially ran out. This one is obviously a lot larger. Will be acting as a wooden fortress, comes with arrow slits, castle turret, and castle watch technology. Castle watch, very slept on for the Rus. Also can levy militia, the gremlins, every 1 minute to the capital town center, meaning that some of these militia in Feudal Age will be coming over, trying to harass this dock. They do have a little bit of limited lifespan, but does have enough to put some damage into the opposing dock. Kremlin obviously going out for RacingCat on the other side. In the north, he's got 8 on his Kremlin, while 6 on the southern ISanych Kremlin. So both will get done at probably hovering around the same time, or within at least 5 seconds of each other. And they do get completed. Now, Mr. Cat over here adding a 2nd dock over here on the north side, and I'm interested to see, with both of these players hitting Feudal, I'm curious to see if there were any transformations, and there is. Coming from ISanych, he is going to be making a water galley and an attack ship, adding rock and scissors. And now that he has both of these military, NyanRacingCat choosing not to, and continuing with his food economy. So he doesn't have any ships to help contest this. There's only a galley in the works for him, so he's going to have to take these ships, put them into the dock, and there will be a little bit of naval superiority for ISanych converting this one into an attack ship as well. It's going to be very difficult for RacingCat to come back here. This galley is going to get absolutely shredded by the spring-load ships that are here. It's down before I can even finish that sentence. And we'll be adding an attack ship of his own. I think there was a little bit of a issue for NyanRacingCat not transforming, because now that he didn't, he just essentially lost water in that battle, right? Militia going to be able to take down a couple of ISanych villagers. That's 2 of the 3 that were here. NyanRacingCat is having that little bit of dock healing, which is going to help him out. Probably have to pull some of these lodges to get some healing in order to stabilize. And it looks like back home, whoops, excuse me, it looks like back home, NyanRacingCat adding a little bit of stone for him, which could help him out in the future. There's another shipwreck as another attack ship ends up hitting the ground. Now that ISanych has completed his rock, paper, scissors and has his demo ship, if NyanRacingCat chooses to do anything else with these docks, it's going to make sure that he has an answer for all of them, but it looks like he's essentially giving up. And you can tell based on the amount of villagers that he's moving now, he's sending some of these villagers to food, knowing that those fishing boats are never going to be able to gather fish, and has to move villagers. And this is one of the reasons, and I've highlighted this before in previous Metaplay streams, but this is why water is as good as it is. Not only are you getting, obviously, a food economy, you're adding more of an economic count throughout the game where you otherwise would not have, but there's a difference in the amount of villagers that are going to be on wood and collecting wood based on food and collecting food. NyanRacingCat has to put essentially all of his villagers on food, instead of trying to get some on wood or trying to get some on gold, trying to get some different resources. NyanRacingCat trying to get a little cheeky, adding a wooden fortress over here near the Rus's gold vein, and would have enough range, even though it looks like it's a lot because of that hill. And a couple gremlins were able to fish that out, and it looks like the battle of the militia going on between both players. I mean, if you wait long enough, they both just end up, you know, dying on the same battlefield just because of their lifespan. But NyanRacingCat transitioning to a little bit of a land army composition, adding in some early knights. I think we'll be adding in an archery range as well, which will be good against some of those Kremlin militia. Look at NyanRacingCat, what he is doing for trying to get back on the water. He's making sure his dock emplacements are getting added. That south dock getting destroyed before that happens, the north dock not. And we'll be able to try to get some good shots on some of these. There's a demo ship that's trying to take hits. There's another demo ship that will be in range. And it just makes sure that dock doesn't get completely destroyed. But NyanRacingCat has other ideas. 3 demo ships coming in on this dock. And that is that is 1 dead dock, ladies and gentlemen, emplacement or otherwise. That thing is shattered. So NyanRacingCat trying to take his attention over here on the land. There is a gold mine over here, which is a rather nefarious place for ISanych. This gold vein is so difficult to actually defend. The Kremlin does help and take a couple shots out, but that's pretty much it. It's not really doing too much. These militia are going to help him because, as we know, the militia do have a little bit of bonus against cavalry. So that's going to help him out. But these archers over here in the back are going to help take some hits on these villagers. And it looks like one might go down because of that. And it does. So NyanRacingCat's goal here, essentially, as we're getting into the feudal age, and for ISanych, he wants to go into castle age. He's trying to get all of this gold to make sure he can get to the castle age relatively unscathed. The issue is because of how forward his gold is, he's basically forced into making some kind of land production, does have multiple stables and adding horsemen. He doesn't have the gold to make knights, so he hasn't been able to queue any until just about right now. He has a horseman in queue, but does have a couple knights in queue here, and hopefully with this stable, he'll be able to add some. But it looks like for RacingCat, he's trying to claw his way back into the game, and now we can look at the villager distribution and how important that is. 17 on food that he needs to, 19 on gold for ISanych. Difference is NyanRacingCat going into Castle Age a lot quicker than ISanych is. NyanRacingCat going for High Trade House, realizing that being in Castle Age is probably his one way back into this game. If he leaves this going feudal for too long, he lets these logic fishing boats. Look at how many boats there are. 8 total. That's an extra 16 in population, because all of them have population of 2. It feels like going into Castle Age is going to be the way to get himself back into this game, and we'll see how effective it is. As the High Trade House gets completed, he keeps trying to get that wooden fortress up. Not going to get there, though. Just looks like ISanych, just because of the fact that he has the water and has all of that food economy, he's just able to pump out units at a rather alarming pace compared to NyanRacingCat. Military count 23-4. Castle Age just gets hit, everyone's favorite, with the High Trade House at 37 per minute. Yikes. That's a yikers. It does have 1,000 food in the bank, so going for a knight upgrade from early knight to regular knight. ISanych knows that NyanRacingCat did not spend into military because he spent 1,800 resources going up to the Castle Age. He thinks feudal age is his time to strike. Kremlin's going to help Mr. Cat out on the defensive side of it. There is basically all cavalry that these Kremlin militia will be beneficial for. And the fact that he's Castle Age now means these militia are a lot better than ISanich's. These militia will be able to hold their own. Does have 12 damage with an extra 12 against some of these early knights, so it'll be really useful for him. And NyanRacingCat actually adding crossbowmen as well, which is going to benefit him against some of these early knights. Even just one crossbowman taking pot shots, Kremlin obviously helping too, is able to get him back in the game. Not going to be able to raid at this point, and that's another knight down. That's a lot of resources. Now with military count 27-4, it looks like ISanych continuing to stay in feudal age and is not going to let NyanRacingCat get the opportunity to get more military count. They will take this fight here with an overly stacked military. There are regular knights as opposed to early knights coming out for these players, and those early knights for ISanych just end up getting chopped up. There's a couple of them end up going down. That charge is so much health for those early knights, and it's more of a quality over quantity as the Kremlin helping him out. We got the town center on the white side helping him out. We have a knight raid over here on the west. But look at all of these knights and archers that end up going down. That's a lot of resources that ISanych spent for not really too much. NyanRacingCat continuing to add crossbowmen. Might need a little bit more of production building. It does have some, has a second stable, and is getting a barracks as well just to help him in the spearman department, just because these Kremlin militia, as temporary as they are rather difficult. First relic does get picked up. We have a warrior monk. Maybe we'll see some Saint's Blessing out of this Rus Mirror. I hope so. Hardened spearmen helping getting those knights down rather quickly. Decent amount of crossbowmen back here, which actually are doing pretty well at taking out these militia. These militia are pretty flimsy. And we have another horseman just kind of going to his doom. Now, the problem is, for NyanRacingCat, he just was able to hold. He just was able to get the backup from ISanych, or the retreat, I should say. Whereas on the other side, ISanych going for the High Trade House right now, so we'll be getting Castle Age probably within the next 20 to 30 seconds. And although NyanRacingCat is evening this military count up, the issue is the economy count for both players, 66 to 47. And it looks like these deep water fish are kind of out of gas here. They do replenish just a little bit, but they're not really doing much else. It might behoove ISanych to take a little bit of these shoreline fish. And is adding some of this deer patch down south as well. It's going to help him in the food count. High trade house for ISanych, a little bit better. 108 per minute compared to the 37. Now NyanRacingCat sees this rather undefended, or ISanych, excuse me, sees this undefended area with the high trade house. It might be a recipe for disaster if he sees that as a raiding spot. NyanRacingCat looking for his own raiding spots just based on happenstance. Huh. Just finds those villagers and decides to spare them. Good for him. Good for him. Playing the pacifist role in this AoE4 game. Now, NyanRacingCat, just because he was first one to relics, continuing to get relics. Third one scooped up, and then he'll be able to, how you doing, keep it moving over to his monastery sacred site for NyanRacingCat on the west side. Also saved. ISanych playing like he has all the map control in the world. The only thing is, he really doesn't. These villagers are going to end up going down. ISanych still has not realized it. We have a couple more knights over here just because there's knights in so many different areas trying to get the wood line, trying to get the gold mine. Didn't see this one until too late. That's so many villagers going down. NyanRacingCat, although he won water, or ISanych, although he won water, might not be able to win this game if he gets frivolous with some of his villagers on land, but does have a good raid over here on the north side. Is able to make the villagers of NyanRacingCat run away, at least for a little bit, creating a little bit of idle time. ISanych continuing to press his militia button. Has 8 militia out there in Castle Age, going to be a little bit better. And knows NyanRacingCat doing the smart thing, presence of mind, to just run away from the militia because, you know, we'll know they'll die eventually. We'll be trying to run around, continuing to try to get some of these villagers. Now, when ISanich's gold mine runs out, this is going to be kind of a problem for him, right? As we can see over here, there's essentially nothing. There's just a plain. But as we go, it looks like there's this eastern gold vein, which this eastern part of the map with this cliff here has been rather difficult for ISanych to control. So if he has to go over to this gold mine, this might prove to be an issue, and there's a mining camp right there. He really doesn't have a choice in order to do that. But the food really helping him out here from these Lodge fishing boats. Military count 36 to 22. So although some of his land villagers have been killed, just because his boats have still been okay, he's been able to get a good mass. And as you saw, 6 of those Kremlin militia just tragically essentially ended their lives by seppuku. And we have multiple raids coming in on either side. ISanych getting those spearmen to get killed. This high trade house has been such a difficult thing to control. Only having a couple spearmen there hasn't helped. He had to pull essentially his whole army. But does get the most wonderful thing in all of Age of Empires, Saint's Blessing. Saint's armor, having 1+ armor on both ranged and melee, and having +2 attack. But ISanych just got different plans for some of the villagers of NyanRacingCat. We have a couple warrior monks trying to do it. Here's a Wololo. ISanych chooses to back up instead of trying to take this. What's super nice is having these Kremlin militia all the way in the back, and you can just call them out when you're getting raided because it's such a good defensive landmark. I really enjoy what they did with the Kremlin and giving that little bit of offensive prowess, but still having the importance of being defensive. Crossbowmen on both sides. Difference is, one has Saint's Blessing, one doesn't. And we can see that armor being how important as these warrior monks continue to stay alive. The military count is higher for ISanych. I get a little bit of that is because of Navy, but you have a little bit of that as the increased army count on land. And ISanich's front line was the first one to go down. NyanRacingCat going for a second town center near this deer patch, which will help him stabilize food. The issue is, I don't know if he has the military to really keep up and make sure that it stays undefended. That stealth forest being such a tricky little Ricky for both of these players. They essentially almost passed each other, but now ends up taking the fight. Again, Saint's Blessing coming in for NyanRacingCat, but I think just because of how many units that ISanych has in comparison, it's going to mean a lot of these units for NyanRacingCat ends up going down. He's trying to get that town center up as soon as possible. All those crossbowmen end up looking at Mr. Cat's villagers. So many of them end up going down. Economic count 73 to 43. Villagers apparently have a death wish, deciding to come back to try to finish that town center. He might know this game is as good as over, because losing that fight, losing that many villagers, while having nothing on water, is a death sentence. And also lost a relic over there. That was so huge for ISanych to continue to stabilize that area. Economic count 74 to 38 in favor of ISanych. And it got a little rough. I think RacingCat did a good job of knowing what, even though he was playing from behind, knowing what he needed to do to win. And for him, it was get up to Castle Age a little earlier, get the Night Tech out a little bit earlier, but it just ended up not being enough because as you look at the food per minute difference, obviously there's a big economic discrepancy. But having the food per minute difference of 1,500 for ISanych and 700 for RacingCat, he's going to go for a second town center over here by this berry bush, and then we have a little bit of sheep carcass going to be here as well. Adding a wooden fortress. I mean, this is basically the food economy of NyanRacingCat. ISanych knows that. Going over here with actually rather astounding timing, as that wooden fortress ends up not getting completed. Super good pull from NyanRacingCat, and because of the stealth forest, he doesn't know that the town center is there. He doesn't know that the town center exists. Only spent about 4 or 5 nights to idle essentially all of RacingCat's food economy. We got a lot of military production buildings here. Not much in queue, except maybe a couple warrior monks that are going to help him out. NyanRacingCat does add some spearmen and some crossbowmen to help protect him against some of these night raids, which are going to really help him out. But ISanich's just staying firm right in front of NyanRacingCat's base until he decides to move. He knows that this is a little economic weak underbelly here from NyanRacingCat. And although some of these knights went down, sending his whole army over here means that the high trade house and that constant source of food is not going to be there anymore. NyanRacingCat has to pull 18 villagers over to the west side, puts them on wood, I think essentially because he doesn't really know where else to put them. And RacingCat's land army continues to get mopped up. Whereas back home, look how ISanych is doing back home. Working on his gold vein, which is great. He's adding a lot of crossbowmen. He's making sure, you know, military production is very good and has continued to be. Still tracking down some units over here. And RacingCat does add in a mangonel of his own, but we are not going to see it fire. That is the end of this game. This is a game one that goes the way of ISanych, and a lot of the times on Golden Heights, it really becomes who wins that water first. And it looked like NyanRacingCat did a good job of doing that, pulling that extra villager in Dark Age, but in Feudal Age didn't go with the transform. Now, I'm not necessarily sure if the transform is a meta thing to do in a Roost mirror. On Golden Heights, I think because of how close you are to the other dock, a transform might be a good idea. I mean, it's the quickest way you're going to be able to establish naval dominance. So that move ended up working in benefit to ISanych, and he was able to take game one. So Roos, for both players, ISanych becoming victorious. And that mirror, and I think when we look at that game, we can understand why Rus is as good as it is in these kind of hybrid maps like a Golden Heights. The Kremlin's going to help you with your wood economy. It's also going to give you those militia that are going to help take down enemy dock, maybe raid the opposing player without spending the resources on getting a military building and then the units to produce out of it. So we can see, just because of the addition to the Kremlin, that Rus is firmly in the meta for some of these hybrid maps, and arguably the best. Spawning in on the western side of Basin. This is a rather retro Basin, but playing as the Ottomans, we have NyanRacingCat now spawning in on the west, playing as the Delhi Sultanate. It is ISanych. Rather interesting matchup for Ottomans and Delhi. Me, personally, I think these are two of some of the best civs out there right now. Now, I know you guys are coming from Golden League, and I know you guys are seeing the fact that there are no keeps. It's the War of the No Stone Age and all that kind of stuff. Very clever name, by the way. For ISanych, he does have the ability to make keeps in this game. We will see some compound of the defender. And if we do, we're going to see in a game that was prior to this one, we had Avely and GUA playing a game. Avely was a cockroach with Delhi, let me tell you. He was able to, you know, he had such a low economic count. He was able to get compounded defender. He was able to get a lot of stone outcroppings, able to get a lot of keeps. All of a sudden, there were 4 to 5 keeps out with an economic count of about 110. So it's very possible to see ISanych maybe down as you get to Castle Age, but as long as you make it there, and as long as you have the resources to spam out villagers, you could be able to cockroach your way back into a game. NyanRacingCat going for the early military school build with the Ottomans, and I've seen some arguments over, is the military school worth it against Delhi? Is it not worth it against Delhi? To be honest, I think you do a good job, especially because this gold mine is so forward. The NyanRacingCat scouted. Because this gold mine is so forward, having those spearmen that might come out maybe after ISanych has the 200 gold to go up to feudal, it does mean he might not be able to get some good scholar production in feudal. And some of these feudal age battles that the Delhi are so fixated on, and along with the Ottomans making sure they can get their snowball turning into that avalanche, it's going to make sure that there aren't that many scholars in that feudal age battle. So we'll see. For ISanich's Tower of Victory coming up, we all know the Tower of Victory and how it's an actual Tower of Victory at this point, making sure that your infantry has plus 20% when produced. So we'll see what the first military building he chooses. Back over here on the other side, NyanRacingCat going for the twin minaret. One of the things, I'm a rather new Ottoman player myself. One of the things that I've noticed when I put the minaret next to berry bushes, sometimes they'll just go to berry bushes if I don't have the correct amount of villagers on berries. So just want to make sure that doesn't happen for NyanRacingCat. But that first spearman going to start matriculating his way across the basin from east to west. And we'll not only see this scout, looks like he's going to try to track that scout down, but we'll end up seeing this gold mine as well. ISanych going for the correct Tower of Victory build, adding the second mosque. Obviously, you've one doing technology, the other one pushing out scholars. And one of the things, even though for Delhi their amount of scholar production could be increased, just because scholars only cost 130 gold now, it does mean you do need a little bit more gold than as you went to a Dome of the Faith build instead. He does have one scholar in production, does have the 130. And on this side, Sanctity, on this mosque on the western side, Sanctity is getting completed. And we'll be done in about 3 minutes, so good time from ISanych. See, a pretty good time coming from him. Twin minaret completed for NyanRacingCat at about the 4:30 mark. Also a good time for him. Now we're going to see the Ottomans as they transition into feudal age, how wood dependent they really are. It takes so much for them to make sure they get their military schools out so they have a couple villagers on stone. They're going to add a blacksmith, they're going to add their own production buildings and all of that kind of stuff. And as we're seeing these spearmen just being a rather hell of a nuisance, we're going to see a lot of these Ottoman military buildings start to coalesce around a blacksmith, but it takes a little time to do so. ISanych has to basically fixate all of his micro onto this gold mine. Does have 5 on gold, makes sense just because you need that little bit more gold. And will be vacating more to the west, trying to get a couple more scholars in here. Now he's got 2 scholars and they will be able to heal themselves, but as we saw in this initial fight before, it was difficult for that one scholar to be here even with 2 spearmen just because he wasn't able to heal himself. On the back end, starting to add his own military buildings. Another reason why I think the military school is a good idea for NyanRacingCat. It forces this archery range. It forces this first building. So while that archery range comes out, this military school switches to Sipahi. And now that blacksmith's going to be added, that secondary military school coming out. Going to be adding another Sipahi. Zickle says to hydrate. I don't have time, dude. We got this game going on. Nah, I will. I'll get a drink. I appreciate it. And NyanRacingCat starting to get a little cheeky, taking down this mining camp, starting to take some HP off of this mosque. And now our army compositions for both players are starting to develop just a little bit as that vizier point deafens all of us. Not as bad as it used to, but, you know, we can still hear it. It looks like we go for the meta NyanRacingCat does. Every time I see a meta, I zoom in just a little bit so we can hear the powerful sound of music. Wonderful. We'll be adding that little bit of extra benefit. ISanych does have archers out here as we see our first skirmish, our first true skirmish of the basin. And we'll be getting his own sacred site at the basin, which is so good for these Delhi players. Meta trying to meet his comrades over here on the south side with all the spearmen. It looks like the Sipahi will be joining the battle eventually, just about in 10 seconds. As military count now in favor of the Delhi 11-6. Now, of course, we know a couple of these are scholars, which are going to help him out. But a little bit of that is because of the Ottomans. Again, look how wood heavy they need to be. We have 13 villagers, 13 total, on wood to see them building these archery ranges, these stables, making sure they have a good build of all rock, paper, and scissors. Right now, we just have a decent amount of, I don't know which one this is, scissors, I guess? But the archers are going to be able to kind of carry them away. Sipahi over here going to help him out in this battle as well, making sure that middle sacred site doesn't get taken, and only one is for ISanych. Still with some Dark Age spearmen, however. No, ISanych is up 2-1. Actually, excuse me. Let me change that. Sorry about that. Score is bad. Anyway, middle sacred site gonna be coming up for ISanych, and I think with how much military he has, military count 20-12, will help him get that middle sacred site. Sipahi trying to get some of this raid, while the southern end sacred site starts to get decapped. ISanych does have enough spearmen that's going to help him out here, and NyanRacingCat knows that he's going to need archers in this battle in order to stay afloat, and is adding some archers in their funny hats. I'm going to zoom in real quick. 7 archers total with an 8th on the way. So now, as Ottomans do very well, they're having a little bit of each in all of their compositions, and that really helps them out in this battle against the Delhi. Delhi being able to have their efficient production, having their archery ranges, ISanych correctly microing, making sure he's getting enough spearmen for the Sipahi because he already has a good archer mass. The issue is he doesn't himself have any horsemen. So if the Ottomans continue to get this archer mass, they're not really going to have the hard counter if they choose to take this fight. And as this game continues to coalesce here, and as we get into perhaps Castle Age for both of these players, I know we're a little ways away, but because of these military schools being there, they're going to end up paying off. But first, big fight for this middle sacred site. There are not enough spearmen in this battle. The archers are going to be able to take hits at these scholars. NyanRacingCat going to be able to hit these scholars as well. Another Vizier points comes out where he goes for his own and goes for imams. Couple spearmen going to try to get some reinforcement in the middle. It looks like there are enough archers going to be able to one-tap these spearmen. And honestly, as long as there's no spearmen in the battle, NyanRacingCat can do okay and get a little bit of a surround with his Sipahi because he does have the ranged armor upgrade, which is going to help him out. Imams are going to help get these archers back up to strength. We have a new meta here, ladies and gentlemen. Increasing the attack speed by 15%. Remember that Tower of Victory being at 20. A little bit of an increase from ISanych. And this meta obviously not being as good as the Tower of Victory because it's got to stay alive. NyanRacingCat with the cheeky neutralization of that south trade site, the sacred site, excuse me, but these archers, now we have an archer mass against an archer mass. The difference is there's a lot of Sipahi here. There really aren't that many spearmen. There are enough archers here to try to take him down. The thing is, NyanRacingCat not really doing a good job of microing. He's going for the scholars instead of the archers. And it kind of creates a chicken or the egg scenario. Do you snipe the scholars so they can't heal? Do you snipe the units so the scholars can't heal anything? Looks like he goes for the scholars instead, and I think he made the correct choice as we can see the archers picking all of them off. Sipahi just enough here to get those archers down to a low enough health where archers back here on the east side are going to be able to pick them off. Now military count as this battle goes convincingly to the Ottoman Empire. Military count 39 to 23. Those archers have to consistently back up. ISanych does not have gold from anywhere. That neutral site continued to be neutralized at the end of that battle. Archer count now double, more than double for NyanRacingCat, and he also has imams. Did lose his meta. The Sound of Music no longer keeping the spirits high for this archer mass, but he is able to have just as many archers as he does. Now for the Delhi Sultanate, this is incredibly challenging for him because Delhi loves to get that map control in feudal age, loves to get those sacred sites. He just has more units than you most of the time. For the Ottomans, or playing against the Ottomans, not so much. Oh. Okay. He saw him. Okay. Gotta go ahead and turn around. These villagers for ISanych, Delhi Sultanate, no textiles. And some of those will be going down. Economic count 44 to 40. But as you can see, both of these civs do have this weak point in their arsenal. Delhi needs to go out and get these sites of Gaia food. These berry bushes, these deer patches, and he has the other one in the north. And ISanych is trying to bolster his troops. He's never going to have enough against the Ottoman Empire at this point. Take a look back here. All of these archery ranges pumping. Barracks, stable, pumping Sipahi. Another Vizier point going off. What in the hell is happening? There's just so many pro-Ottoman things that are going on in this game right now. Military count 55 to 28. And it looks like ISanych putting a lot of his archers, actually, in this town center, not necessarily the villagers. ISanich's getting a little cheeky with these villagers out here in the east. And the Sipahi and the archers find them. There is no outpost. There is no nothing that's going to help them. All they're going to hear are the Medders' drums as they casually try to run away and lose their life. ISanych is completely trapped within his own base. And over here, these Ottoman players also kind of have the same weak point as the Delhi Sultanate. They need to go out and get some of these outside food resources. We do have the Twin Minaret a little bit. There are these berries. And before I can even talk about the Ottomans, going into late feudal, early castle, the match decides to be called. ISanych taking the defeat at the hands of NyanRacingCat for game 2. Now remember, ISanych did take game 1 in the Roost Mirror. So we are going to be going into a game 3. For both these players, villager count rather stable until ISanych needed to go out and get some of those food sources, the berry patch, the deer patches, and all of that kind of stuff. Both civs do need to do that. Their farm transition usually isn't going to happen in that feudal age area, so that's really a weak point for both of these players. I think they both try to do the same thing, with Delhi trying to get the sacred sites more so, and Ottomans just essentially steamrolling. But Ottomans just do it. It just seems like Ottomans just do it better. You know, they get units for free. They might not produce as quickly, but that, I mean, everything's better when it's free, right? So we'll take a look at some of this. I actually want to take a look at the military count because I missed it. ISanych did have a little bit of a lead, but I think it was a little bit of army composition too. You know, NyanRacingCat had a little bit of everything. I don't think ISanych, because he didn't have the horsemen, wasn't helping him out in those battles, and also didn't have enough spearmen. So then the archers were just able to pick them off, and then the Sipahi had free range over the archers. But overall, good game out of both players into this game. Not too forcefully, but forcefully enough here on dry Arabia. We have playing as the Malians in the red. It is Mr. ISanych. First Malians we've seen in this tournament, and spawning in the east in this pivotal game 3. It is Mr. NyanRacingCat playing as the Mongols. This is one of those things that, me personally, playing as Mongols, I like to think I have the micro to do this, but I don't. This girl will be able to pick up some sheep. I really like the way we can see his waypoints going all the way around as well. Now, Malians, we do know, have had a copious amount of changes. The Malians, their Musafati warrior is not as good as an all-around unit, but is very good against things like heavy armored units. Now, Mongols do like to do that. When they go into their castle age, they do like to make men-at-arms. They like to make lancers and the like. So we'll see if there's a little bit of a change for the Mongolian player. This is not a matchup that I've seen very frequently, especially in Season 4. So me and you both in chat are going to be, and whoever's watching will be able to learn a little bit of how this is going to get developed. Now, ISanych going for not that fast castle that we saw Malians just tunnel vision into for Season 3. He's adding a barracks in the Dark Age and going to be making donzos of his own. NyanRacingCat knows that Malians are a somewhat towerable civilization and is adding his own Dark Age spearmen. Now, when this barracks gets completed, we'll look at the differences between what a spearman looks like or a donzo. I do know that donzo's a little bit more expensive. If we take a look, obviously a lot more expensive, as NyanRacingCat can just get one for free. But let's take a look at our donzo here. With 80 HP, 7 attack, and that 1 melee armor, which really helps them out. I mean, 80 HP, 7 damage, they don't get that armor. So if you come up just head-to-head, donzo against spearman, donzo's going to win. And donzo can just take the spear that they have and just go ahead and fling it at you. You know? You really want to get some ranged attack with these Danzos. Let's see if we actually see it. Oh yeah, they turn around, just go ahead and chuck it at him. It'd be like, see you later. Have that spear in the back of your head while you're running away, bud. And although NyanRacingCat does have more spearmen, not necessarily of increased quality, gotta wait for those reinforcements to come back. Danzo gotta wait just a little bit to get a javelin throw, and they do have a minimum range in order to actually get that Danzo throw off. And NyanRacingCat going for the first tower right next to that gold mine, which is going to be at a pretty good time for NyanRacingCat. It just makes sure that no feudal age is trying to get started for either player. Now, we do know this villager is rather indefensible, but based on the amount of spearmen that NyanRacingCat has, he might be able to keep these Danzos at bay as best as he can. As long as that tower goes up, this is going to be an issue for ISanych, but these Danzos doing a really good job of holding their own. Second villager comes in for NyanRacingCat to provide a little bit of relief. Danzo's trying to get that spear throw on that villager. Not going to be able to kill them doing that. And now NyanRacingCat also brings his Khan back as a little bit of a reinforcement. But now that this battle's getting underway, I think what RacingCat is doing is just buying his time here. I think he knows he might lose that battle. And if he stayed in that battle, he would have. But that was just enough to keep that outpost up, make sure it stays alive. Now the Danzos can't really do anything about it. And NyanRacingCat gonna get some sweet raid bounty out of this. That's so huge. And as we'll see this tick down to burning that plus 25 and plus 25 of the food and gold variety. Coming actually from that outpost. That one arrow lit it on fire. Good for it. And now for NyanRacingCat, we'll see a little bit of a transition. We do see gold. And we'll try to get that 400 food just about as quickly as possible. These Danzos, I think the only saving grace for them right now is the fact that they can throw their spears. Because of the fact that they can throw them, they're actually going to be able to do damage to these spearmen. Because if not, I think they'd be like giga screwed. More raid bounty coming in for NyanRacingCat. Gets that gold that much quicker. Can click up to feudal age right now. And that's exactly what he does. Silver Tree coming right for him. And I know we've taken a lot of focus on the north side. A couple houses did go down, but I want to take a look just because Silver Tree has been chosen. We're going to see where these neutral trading posts are, both on the south and the north side. RacingCat is in a good position where he can get both of those trading posts. If one gets denied, might be able to go for the north one instead. He's still going to be at a good distance. For either or, ISanych precariously placing his scout over here on the south side, making sure if there is a trade route, he's going to know about it. Look at all these spearmen from NyanRacingCat. Having that raid bounty ability and just having that little bit of extra food, being able to click up, and then being able to double produce all your spearmen. Now with the Danzos, there's too much quantity for this much quality. And they're going to continue to get raid bounty. ISanych on the other side going for the Mansa Quarry over here, which seems to be more of the choice instead of the Sultani trade network nowadays for the Malian players. From what I've seen anyway, I don't know what's exactly meta, but I do see the Mansa Quarry here. And that pit mine is going to go down. And we'll be adding some extra raid bounty. And that Silver Tree starting to pop these traders out. And they will be getting popped out while ISanych doesn't have essentially any passive gold anymore. Will be able to get it with his Mansa Quarry if he chooses to. And if he doesn't go for stone, decides to go for gold instead. But you got to think about it. There was 1, 2, 3, 4 houses. And one pit mine right there. That's 125 food, 125 gold. Right there. Easy pickings for NyanRacingCat. And now these traders are going underway. This is one of the reasons why the Mongolian tower rush into Silver Tree is so frustrating to play against. You're so fixated on your base. You have so many things on your base that are going on. All the way in the back for our Mongolian player here. He's sitting here trading back. He's trying to get some. He's trying to get some gold. He's trying to live the fancy life. He's trying to get bougie. And he's on 58 gold and a little bit of extra food for his trouble as well. But we're gonna see that silver tree start to pack up, and GTFO right into that corner will be probably about 100-ish gold on that. But the only thing that RacingCat needs is a couple of these to make it. And as long as a couple of them make it, he'll be just fine. He can get up to Castle Age that way. The issue is for these players, for especially RacingCat, when he does get to Castle Age, what does he do with it? You know, a lot of those heavily armored units might not be as good compared to if you're playing against a different civilization, just because of how much the Musafati can do against those heavy units. We do have upgrades out of both players. Hardened Danzos and Hardened Spearmen are making the predominant army composition for both players. NyanRacingCat still with the military advantage of 20 to 11. It looks like ISanych is trying to sneak away some of his troops here to make sure that trade doesn't get hit. The issue is, look at this. We have all these Malian villagers screaming in terror as multiple end up going down. Economic count 36 to 31 in favor of NyanRacingCat. Obviously, some traders are going to be helping him, but there's a deposit. Another 149 gold. Instead, he just about tripled it. And getting raid bounty. Is that a normal scout, not a warrior scout? It's a normal scout. It's not even doing anything. It's hitting him with a wooden sword it found over at that wood pile. ISanych does have the presence of mind to at least get a couple javelin throwers, which is going to help him against those archers. But again, here's another cache. And all he needs is for some of these traders to just go ahead and hit and cash in. Now with the blacksmith coming up with NyanRacingCat, might be able to get some of that improved siege engineering. As we're watching some of these battles unfold, do want to take a shout out to improved siege engineering. Look at this back here. We have a nice little group of hardened Donzos, making sure those traders can't get there. So as soon as the Donzos are spotted and that first trader goes down, NyanRacingCat probably going to do something about it. But he's going for normal blacksmith upgrades here, going for rather an archer-heavy composition, which makes a lot of sense. This is not a predicament that the Mongols usually are in, where they're preferring to stay in feudal. With this build, usually the fast castle is what makes it as good as it is. But because he wouldn't get much of a bonus except maybe spare a mangonel or two, he's deciding to stay in here and continue with that feudal power. Military count 30 to 19, can continue to use that stone to double produce if he so chose. I think NyanRacingCat might be thinking about adding a stable, at least I would hope so, as those javelin throwers get a little bit more populated in number, as we're seeing multiple. Might have some horsemen be able to help him out, but now NyanRacingCat trying to protect this trade as much as he possibly can. We have some archers down here in the south, making sure those traders are safely there. And just like we foreshadowed in Dark Age, we had a few Donzos here. Now NyanRacingCat deciding to take this one up on the top for 153 gold instead of 155, like there's a difference. So now that he's doing 149, excuse me. So now that he's doing a little bit of both, as we're seeing just random units of ISanych going down, now that we're seeing a little bit of both, out of NyanRacingCat using both trade routes, now ISanych has to be in multiple places at once. With the amount of military that he has, that's nigh impossible. There's no way he's going to be able to do that. There's no way he's going to be able to stop this trade. We're probably going to end up seeing outposts going over here so these traders move just a little bit faster. And ISaNych's trying to get some kind of passive gold over here. He still hasn't been able to be over here because of the towers. Had to change his food line to the south, which is less defensible. But ISaNych looks like he's going for maybe a little bit of a switch in army composition. Now is able to use some javelin throwers, and just because of the base damage that the javelin throwers have of 8, it makes those traders easily taken down. But we see both of these armies just on opposite positions on the map. He might have stopped a couple traders in this northeastern trader route that I'm highlighting with my mouse. On the same side, he spent so much trying to get over there. There's nothing over here that's going to be able to help him out to try to get rid of this passive gold, so he's going to be able to take that down, get more raid bounty, and before you know it, hit that Castle Age button, which is what he just did, putting 14 villagers on their curl ties, so that will be completed very soon. ISaNych's trying to add sofas. There are a large amount of spearmen in NyanRacingCat's army composition. So using those sofas not going to be as beneficial. It might be good to take down some traders if he's able to get some sofas over there, but against the army composition of NyanRacingCat, it would be very difficult to use sofas in a rather effective manner. So we have this raid bounty making a difference. Getting that increase. And we see army values just somewhat even at 4,000 to 3,300. A little bit more for NyanRacingCat, but now that Castle Age is going through for NyanRacingCat, probably going to get a little bit of upgrades here. As we'll see over here in the northeast part of the screen, veteran archers will be completed at some point. All of those Dantos really in harm's way here because of all the archers that are out here. There are a massive amount of javelin throwers, and you might think that somewhere around 9 or 10 isn't that massive. They really are. This is a very, very losing fight for ISaNych, and he needs to tap out. I don't think there was any way for him to get to Castle Age. I don't think there was any way he was going to be able to stop that trade. And just having those two routes is insane. This is a very frustrating thing to play against. But NyanRacingCat executing it to perfection and does take the win. You see military count just because of the ability to double produce those spearmen, making sure he had enough spearmen, protected the villagers for that tower, and then we had the onslaught from there afterward. And because of that, NyanRacingCat does take the 2-1 victory in this best of 3. And I want to take a look. I want to refresh the tournament bracket before I...
We want to thank our MetaPlace website subscribers. Your contribution helps us keep the project sustainable. As we reach higher subscription goals, you are helping us cover more and more behind-the-scenes costs, such as video editing. Check out our subscription page using the link in the description, and remember to collect your perks. We will see you the next time.